So who are you?
I am Jamie Gallo, CEO of RentWiki.com, which is a social rental search application.
Very cool. And who are you?
Robert Turnbull, president of RentWiki.com, and I actually basically oversee the sales and public relations side of it.
Cool. Usually my first question is about the company you're building and stuff like that, but I loved your background and sort of where you came from. So tell me about that. Tell me about your background.
Sure. About 12 years ago, I got hired by a company called Prime Media, which owned the Apartment Guide print publication, and saw a real opportunity to bring that product online. Thought it was important to prevent us from losing share.
This was that paper.
So this was the paper guide that you see in the grocery stores. It's still in grocery stores all around the country. And at the time, the company was primarily owned by KKR, and they wanted to invest more heavily in online businesses, and so asked me to come to the board, present them my business plan for ApartmentGuide.com, and I asked them for $50 million, and they said, "Are you sure that's enough?" And ApartmentGuide.com was born.
But I love that one of your coworkers was skeptical about this online thing.
Yes, the head of print sales told me the internet was the CB radio of the 70s. It would never last.
Yeah. They're telling me that they're telling me that right now about Foursquare and all the location apps, which we'll talk about a lot because you're into the location business, which is very interesting.
Absolutely.
So what are you guys doing today, and what's RentWiki?
Well, RentWiki was really born of the idea that you can find only so much information, and there's only so much information on apartments, and you're missing half the story. The other half of the story is who lives here. Is this the kind of place I want to live here? And because of fair housing, you really can't put that information on websites. So along comes RentWiki, and suddenly consumers can talk to other consumers about the best place for them to live. And you've got the two sides of the story, both the apartment community and the neighborhood from the consumer perspective.
So I could go in and say this, I've lived here and the neighbors are loud and noisy and really bad neighborhood, or there's a freeway real nearby and it's always putting smoke in your backyard or something like that.
Well, hopefully most of the information is positive.
Right.
I mean, you want to have a fair and balanced
But you want to be
approach
protected, right? As a renter, you want to buy some place that you're going to have a good experience.
Absolutely.
And we've all had bad experiences renting, right?
Yes, I think everybody has. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the number one thing that consumers want when they're deciding where they want to live is this a neighborhood that fits my lifestyle? And that's very hard to answer, because of fair housing, but suddenly you get into consumers talking to other consumers about this is the style, this is the lifestyle, and yes, that's me. So the quality of search is improved because of that content.
Oh yeah. You were telling me that even something simple like overlaying taxi data on top of a map of a city is really, it communicates something interesting about the properties you're looking at that you just don't get out of that paper guide that says, oh, this apartment costs $2,000 a month and it has a beautiful tree in the background and and it has 3,000 square feet or whatever, right? Tell me a little bit about the kinds of data that you're able to overlay on the RentWiki.
Well, we're working on a project right now to drastically improve the mapping functionality on the site, and there's all kinds of data available, things like tree density and taxi pickups, the frequency of taxi pickups, access to public transportation. All of those things are important, and our goal is really to get renter feedback on the site from people who have lived there, but also to integrate as much publicly available data as possible to give renters the full picture.
Interesting. One of the other interviews that we've done was with a company called City Sourced, which lets you, with a mobile phone, an iPhone or whatever, an Android or a BlackBerry, walk around your neighborhood and report problems to the city. And it has an API. Is that the kind of thing? Because I could say, hey, there's a pothole in the street in front of my house. Take a picture of that and report it. Or if there's graffiti or something else. Are you looking for data sources like that are fresh, that you can pull into the map and say, hey, these are problems that people have reported?
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking for all kinds of location-based data that we can integrate. Anything that's going to make sense for the renter in helping them make a better decision about where they want to live.
Well, so walkability, for example, how walkable is my neighborhood? Some people may not care that much. Others may not have a car, and so they want to see how close everything is in proximity to where they're living. So you've got this walk score widget that we put on RentWiki so people can actually plug in the property and they can actually see how walkable the area is. I always want to know what kind of events are going on in an area. So Eventful is another great widget that we integrated onto an API into RentWiki. So if I'm going to move into an area, I can see kind of the vibrancy of that neighborhood and how many people are involved and what they're doing. And so in Twitter, you've got Twitter integrations. So Twitter has all this information in the Twitter sphere that largely, I don't know that it helps anyone, but suddenly you can start drawing in information about the neighborhood that people are tweeting, and now you get a sense for what people are saying on Twitter about that neighborhood.
Plus you can contact them through Twitter. And that's the other element that we bring, is that one-to-one personal advice. Anybody who's done a review on the site, you can contact one-on-one and ask them a question, ask them for advice. Twitter is the same way. We provide that vehicle to directly contact that person and ask them for more information.
Now, this is a free service, right?
Yes.
And so, and it doesn't seem to have a transactional area. So are you guys making money with advertising or with referrals? Tell me about your business model.
It's a per lead referral model. So essentially, the consumer behavior and the consumer search process is pretty much, they come on and they do what they normally do. And they look at neighborhoods, they look at properties. When they choose to call one or email one, that is when we make some money from the industry side, from the apartment community itself.
Got it. And if I have a house to rent, can I advertise it? Do I pay you to advertise that? Tell me about that.
It's free to be on the site. They only actually pay, and we will be doing single unit listings like housing, condos, townhomes, and those things. But it's free to be on RentWiki. They actually don't pay anything until they get a physical renter lead.
Got it.
So it's not subscription. You don't pay whether you get it or you don't. You don't pay anything until you actually get a lead from.
And is it available in all countries or just U.S. or just, tell me where you're available?
Just U.S. for now.
Okay.
But
all states?
Nationally, yes. Nationally. All states across the U.S.
Okay.
But I volunteered to open up the Paris office. So,
I'm going to Tahiti.
Tahiti, which is a hot spot right now for that stuff.
Well, you laugh a little bit, but we rented a house in Paris
from
a guy who lives in Sausalito, right? So,
we actually, right after we launched, we had someone contact us through the site, and they had an apartment in Venice that they wanted to list on the site. So we definitely have goals to go international with it as well.
That's an interesting question. Do you only list long-term rentals, or do you list like vacation properties? Like in Tahoe, you rent for a weekend or for a week?
You know, we're doing multifamily now, which is usually 50 unit to 100 unit or higher. We're very quickly getting into, at present, getting into the single unit, and but you're not limited because the nature of the content with RentWiki, and because it deals with the neighborhoods. That could be single unit, multifamily, that could be vacation rentals. So all of these things are things we have experience in, and we're going to be getting into one phase at a time.
Got it.
So yes, we will be doing.
Because all that data you're collecting on neighborhoods is going to be important to every rental.
Yep.
Mapping technology. You know, how is the change? Because I just was at TED and saw Bing's new maps that they're using. They're using pictures. They're using 3D data, so you can see how tall the buildings are. They can even change the light source and show you what shadows will look like. That's important in New York City, right?
Absolutely.
If you want morning sun and you're on the wrong side of a tall building, you're not going to get morning sun, right? So knowing a little bit about how the sun will affect your day, and or in our neighborhood, you're going to have fog certain times of year. You know, you want to know, out of the year, how many times a day, how many times a year do I have fog? That affects people's buying behaviors, right?
Absolutely.
And the more information you can fold into the search, like the shadows on the building, people's opinions, I mean, eventually you're going to get to a point where people can transact without actually having to go there.
Yeah.
So that they can know everything they need to know to just do a lease without actually having to go to the property. So, that is a goal. Are we there yet? No. We're probably still a couple of years away, but that kind of information helps the consumer make the decision.
Tell me a little bit more about the crowd aspects. What have you learned from building a system where the crowd, normal people, can add data on top instead of just trying to suck down the commercial databases? What are you learning from doing this?
People are actually really creative. They really want to give you a good, honest review. So I thought it was going to be kind of a bashing thing where people would come in and they say bad things. That's not the case. There are people who are looking for an excuse to write something good. They're very creative, very thorough, funny. And so when we read the content where people contribute about the neighborhoods, we think, man, we couldn't have written that or hired someone to write that any better ourselves, and you have average consumers doing this. Yeah. That has been a fantastic surprise at the level of quality you get from just average consumer.
Yeah. Do you let people post videos?
Yes.
Like, can I take a flip cam around my neighborhood and say, I can give you a much better sense of what this neighborhood's like?
Absolutely.
You know, here's the coffee shop, here's the...
Yep. Videos, photos, absolutely.
So in Russian Hill, San Francisco, you've got, go to YouTube, there are 6 videos where people have just walked around the city and just did a self-guided tour. 6 people, I guess, I don't know if they don't have any time or they have too much time or what, and they did videos and they posted them to YouTube. Well, that's great. We grab those videos or people load them, and suddenly you've got consumers showing other consumers about the area, and we're just a conduit for that information.
We have one on our site in Arlington, Virginia, that's some guys doing a rap all about Arlington. And I mean, it's hilarious. It's very well done. It's very funny. But they take you all around the city of Arlington through this rap song that they've created, and so it's great. It's entertaining, but it's also informative.
Yeah, it shows the 28 Starbucks in the little area. Actually,
so that's a great way to get a sense of how people view the neighborhood.
Yep.
The kinds of people that live there.
Yeah,
exactly.
Very well done.
Anything else you want to tell me about the company you're building? How is it funded? Are you guys looking for funding? What's happening where? And what's...
That's my job. We up until now have been mostly strategically funded. So clients, other people in the industry who have an interest in seeing us be successful have been our primary source of funding to date. But we are just about to do a venture round. It'll be our first one, and hopefully our last round of funding. But we'll see.
Very cool. So that's in final stages of being signed. So you don't want more VCs calling you and bugging you.
Not right now.
At least not for
you never hurt, just in case. But,
yeah, it never hurts to talk to VCs.
Of course,
but
one thing I've learned about VCs is if one round happens and all of a sudden they catch wind that it's a good company, they all want in.
Yeah.
It's like everybody. I was just with a bunch of VCs and they were like, I wish I put money in Twitter.
No kidding. Don't we all? Yeah, it's true.
Very cool. Where do we learn more about it?
RentWiki.com.
Yeah. Thank you very much for giving me a little tour around the...
You bet. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Nice meeting you.
Thanks.